All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, a reminder, tomorrow the guys from Human Nature will be in studio, and we'll also be giving away some tickets. John Brookhagen from Infinity the Math Institute will be joining us as well. So that will be tomorrow. But coming up next, this is going to be a lot of fun. Sandy Van from the Van Law Firm will be in studio. We're going to be asking her a lot of legal questions in her expertise, including what is hernia mesh? I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even know what that was, and I've been reading about it now. I'm going to ask her a little bit about that. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. Sandy Van joining us in studio on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Thursday. And, anybody, everybody needs a good lawyer for whatever reason. It could be, anything from a car accident to a speeding ticket. And now I'm learning about what hernia mesh is. I've never heard about it before. And our legal expert in studio with us right now is Sandy Van from the Van Law Firm. We also have Adam Kraus on the phone line joining us. So, Sandy, thanks so much for coming in. How are you?
Good. Hi, how are you?
Good to see you, Sandy. Thanks so much. So last week we talked a lot about slip and falls. We talked a lot about, injuries and car accidents and stuff like that. And I like to talk about all these different subjects with you on a weekly basis. And I never really knew what hernia mesh was. I actually had an umbilical hernia many, many years ago. Luckily, it went okay, but then I learned that it was a procedure that I didn't even need to get done. So can you tell people what exactly is hernia mesh?
That's when there's like a weak spot in your abdominal wall, and that might be an abdominal hernia, and some organ or intestine or fatty issue is squeezing through a hole in your body, and there's a weak spot. So sometimes doctors will plug it up with some mesh just to strengthen that area.
So obviously, in any medical procedure, sometimes doctors screw up, right? Sometimes, whether it's whatever type of surgery, it happens all the time. It's called medical malpractice, right? And this is no different when it comes to hernias, right? So there's a lot of people, I'm sure not just in Las Vegas, throughout the country that have these procedures done, and sometimes they don't go right. So what happens? How do you file a hernia mesh lawsuit?
Well, you would give us a call at 702-500-HURT, and we would see if you qualify. So there's a list of questions that we would ask you, such as when you had your first hernia surgery or your second hernia surgery, or some people have had multiple surgeries and where you have had them. We would send you some documents to fill out and sign so that we can request your medical records. And then once we get your medical records, which may take 30 to 60 days, we will review them to see if you qualify, if it's a manufacturer that we are actually pursuing, or if we can find the product ID. Every hernia mesh product has a serial number, which we call a product ID, and we want to find that so we know which manufacturer we're going after.
Now, I want to get your coworker, right, Adam Kraus, on the line, who also works at the Van Law Firm.
Actually, he works at Kraus & Kinsman. We're co-counsel.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay, cool. So, Adam, thanks for joining us as well. So I know that we're talking about a lot of money here. It depends. I know that it depends on what the damages are, and that's with any case, whether it's a car accident, whatever the case may be. It depends on your injuries, I would imagine. But can you tell me what the average settlement is in a hernia mesh lawsuit, and what are some of the bigger cases that you've had?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And love getting on the phone with Sandy whenever I can as well, too. But, so these, I'll always look at these cases, and there's a lot of media out there, and you'll see settlement looming, settlement pending, settlement right around the corner. It's happening. And I think some of that is just a little bit of a marketing ploy, a little bit, because these cases are in their infancy, is what I would say. But, if you look at polypropylene in general, it's been around for a long time. But, polypropylene vaginal mesh cases had gone on for 7, 8, 9 years, and abdominal mesh, happened a little bit thereafter. And so I want to make sure that part's clear. The second part is that there really hasn't been any global master settlements yet. But what I will say is that these are not like class actions where, you sue Blockbuster back in the day and you receive $7 in your mailbox.
Right.
These are significant claims, and especially because a lot of these are 2, 3, 4 surgeries or surgeries that really can challenge every part of your life. And so the amount of money that we are going for is significant. And so we have had settlements in the six figures, and I'm sure that there will be some that are even larger than that. We have filed several wrongful death cases across the country.
Wow, that was my next question, actually. Has anyone ever died from this? So you're saying people have died from hernia mesh?
I can tell you that my law firm right now has over 20 people that we have represented or are currently representing in wrongful death cases due to hernia mesh, either due to the infections, due to the wrapping of bowels, and then they're trying to unwound the bowels. Lots of different reasons. One thing I want to clear up when you initially said it is just the surgery can go completely right. Everything can go completely fine, and that's why this is very different than a malpractice case. This is a products case where we're suing a product that was either a failure to warn or it was just a improperly made product. I'm sure we'll go more into how it was improperly made and things like that, but I just want to make sure it's very clear to your listeners that, this is completely different. We're not suing your surgeon. Your surgeon may have done everything to the T to what the manufacturer said, how you're supposed to put this product in, and it still can go wrong because the product is bad.
Wow. So, Sandy, let me go back to you. Yeah, Sandy, let me go back to you here. What if you had this surgery done 20 years ago? What if it happened, say, in the year 2000? What are some of the laws in regards to that? If you can get your medical records, how far back can we take this?
Well, I think that sometimes even if we could get the medical records, we might not be able to find the product ID in the medical records, which we kind of need so we can see which manufacturer we're going after.
Mm-hmm. How many clients do you think if you would estimate that you've represented in regards to hernia mesh since you started your practice?
Adam and I have represented a lot. I think Adam would know that number better.
Adam, go ahead.
I would say right now we've represented a couple thousand.
Wow.
Several thousand even.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, I think, so Adam can explain this. He's actually on the committee for this. So it's usually the attorneys that have the most clients are on the committee. So Adam can explain that.
And I also want to ask you, too, how much money does it cost if someone came to you and said, hey, I want you to represent me in this case? How much would that cost?
Sure. So, Sandy, why don't you handle the cost part, and then I'll handle the next part.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy.
The cost part, we don't charge you anything. We work on a contingency fee basis, so we receive a percentage of what we recover. Usually, if you don't have an attorney, you're not going to recover anything anyway, so better something than nothing. So when you hire an attorney, we get a percentage of whatever we recover. He said that some of these cases are six figures, so we'll get a percentage of that six-figure settlement, or could be lower.
So is it like a third?
It's usually 40% because we actually have to file a lawsuit.
So a little bit more than if it's like a minor car accident where you got whiplash or something. Yeah.
Usually more because we have to actually go to file a lawsuit. Filing fees. And
how
things
common
like that.
is this though? I mean, how common is this when you get this hernia mesh and then you have complications? I mean, do you guys have any stats that say out of every 100 people that get this procedure, I don't know, 1 out of 100 there's some sort of complication? Do you guys know that sort of stuff?
Gosh, I wish I had the actual stat for that. One thing I will say is that I do have stats of reoccurrence rates on people that smoke with this product is much higher if they don't. But if you're using a polypropylene product, what's interesting is that a lot of the internal documents and things like that say that this is a temporary procedure. It's not meant for the long term anyway. Uh-huh. And so now they don't tell you that when they're putting the product inside of you, of course. But that is something, I think they're banking on a revision. And I don't want to say that most people get a revision, but a very large percentage get a revision or a repair surgery.
I see. Okay. And Sandy, anything you want to add to that?
I think he was going to go back to, you had asked a question before, and we had said that he was on the committee.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the way these big cases work or complex litigation works is that when you know that there are going to be a lot of cases of similar stature, what happens is there's a positioning that happens where they are going to take the cases against the same product and they're going to put it into the same courtroom. And that goes through a procedure called a multi-district litigation. And so they will assign one judge to effectively become the expert in that case. The judge will make all of the rulings for that case, and the judge will then appoint lawyers that know what they're doing in these types of cases. And so, you have to go in front of that judge, and you have to basically put your name in, share your knowledge in this type of litigation, and the judge will say, yes, I think you would be great for the barred hernia mesh team, Adam Krauser. And then what happens is throughout the country, several firms, usually 8-10 firms, will get chosen by that judge. So barred, for example, was Judge Sargis. He chose 8 to 10 firms to basically lead this litigation, and essentially we come together to make a super firm to go after these companies, because these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies with unlimited resources. And so you kind of have to come together with people that really know what they're doing to litigate these claims against them. And we're lucky enough to be a part of the steering committee for the barred case in the Southern District of Ohio.
When someone comes to you with a herniated mesh case, how long does it typically take for that lawsuit to be resolved?
Yeah, I always tell people right now that, this is going to be at least 2 to 3 year process. If you sign up today, it's going to be 2 to 3 years. It could be sooner than that. There are several manufacturers, some of the smaller manufacturers, that I believe will settle sooner. But on average, I think it's very safe to say 2 to 3 years is how long it's going to take to get a settlement.
Go, perfectly fine. And also the doctors weren't told of the defect. So if, I am putting on a car, I'm fixing a car, I'm making a car, and nobody tells me that the tires are defective, that's not really my fault that I put on bad tires or whatever.
By the way, I'm thinking maybe my car had a hernia mesh surgery that went wrong, but that's another story for another show.
Probably several.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And these hernia meshes, they also passed FDA approval. The FDA has this process, which is it's called a 510K clearance process, and they said, oh, well, one of these products that's similar passed, so we'll just let these other ones that are very similar, their brothers and sisters, pass too. So we'll just let them go with not the full gamut of tests and testing and things.
All right, so let's start from the beginning here. How can people get in touch with both of you? So both of your firms are working together in these cases. I wanted to ask you that first. Why do law firms work together?
Well, you remember how they have billions of dollars?
Yes.
And no firm is really going to be as big as these companies like Johnson & Johnson and, Covidien, Atrium, Versatex. So they have lots of money. So they hire firms to be on the steering committee, like 10 firms, and then those firms may divvy up the work. Like, okay, you do all the discovery. We need to review like a bunch of documents,
That's interesting, though. I find that fascinating because I would never work with another host of another radio show, right, JD? You know that. I would never do that.
You would never think about that.
No, but it's interesting because, you're not competitors. You're like teammates. You're working together. Whereas you look at all these other occupations, McDonald's would never call Burger King and say, hey, do you guys want to, split the fries? And then, I don't know, I'm just coming up with a horrible hypothetical. But I'm just saying, in your business, you guys do that. It's very common. But in most other businesses, they don't work together because they're competitors. I just find that very fascinating.
So
Go
a
ahead,
company like Johnson & Johnson has a total recall on a product
right
like
now
this.
in the BARD litigation, in particular, is that document dump on us, where the defendant gives you a whole bunch of documents. We're talking terabytes of information, and we have over 75 lawyers across many different law firms right now. 75 lawyers that are all working together to read every single page of this. We're talking millions of pages.
Yeah, no, I believe it. That sounds like a lot of work. JD, you had a question. Go ahead.
So when a company like a Johnson & Johnson has a total recall on a product like this, what safeguards are in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again?
Us attorneys. So if you just let them run willy-nilly and nobody checks them, they will continue doing this to you guys. So sometimes people are like, oh, attorneys are bad or whatever, You need attorneys because otherwise you'd have like the Aaron Brockovich dumping of, waste in water, defective, bad pills that are hurting people. So you have attorneys to keep them in check.
That makes sense. Well, Adam, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us with your expertise on that. If I know anybody that goes through any type of trauma with hernia mesh, you will certainly be one of the first people I call, you and Sandy. So thank you so much for joining us, Adam. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Guys, it was really great meeting you, and thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. So I just wanted to move on to something fun here for a second, Sandy. I had never really filmed a commercial before, and I'm in your office the other day. Driving my 04 Hyundai Elantra. I know you gave my car a little bit of a stare. I saw that when I was driving into your office. I don't blame you, by the way. I get that all the time. No, but it was kind of cool. I filmed a commercial with you. Here was the great thing about what we did, and I'm being totally honest with you. It's nice to be able to, and I wasn't paid to do it or anything. I did it because you're very, very good at what you do. I was a client of yours, and your firm did a fantastic job with my car accident. It was a little awkward because, first of all, I'm the one who always does the interview, and now I'm being interviewed. So it was kind of like the changing of the guards for me, but I did enjoy doing that. So it'll be online, right? This commercial will be online sometime soon.
I'm sure I'm going to give it to my marketing assistant over there, and she's going to put it all over the place.
Well, it was a lot of fun. So I appreciated you inviting me to do that, and it was really a good time. Before we end the segment, can you give out, Sandy, a little bit of information on how people contact you? You mentioned that it's a free consultation, so there's no money up front or any of that stuff, which is great. But how do people contact you, and who's the first person they should talk to? Give them a little bit of the process when it comes to this stuff.
Just give us a call at 702-500-HURT, 702-500-HURT, and we'll go through the questions and get all your information down, send you some documents for you to sign and fill out. And we are taking cases all across the country. So there's no, you have to be in Las Vegas for us to take this case. We're taking cases all over the country. It's multi-jurisdictional. Once we figure out if you qualify after we review your 700 or 2,000 pages of medical records, we will figure out which state is best to file in, if it's a more favorable judge, or if we have a statute of limitations issue, or if we have a tolled statute of limitations, which means we have a tolling agreement saying that the statute of limitations has stopped for this state.
Right.
We'll figure out which state is the best to file in, and we'll file your lawsuit in that state.
Did we cover anything? Is there any other part of this that you want to tell people before we let you go?
No, I think that's it.
I think we covered everything, right? Well, trust me, like I said, if I have a hernia mesh, JD, have you ever had a hernia before?
I have not had a hernia, but I do have something called a diastasis recti, and if you could help me with that, that would be great.
I don't even know what the hell that is, but I did have an umbilical hernia once, and it was not fun. Yes, it was not fun.
What's that feel like?
It felt great, by the way. It was fantastic. No, it was it was horrible. It was horrible. But luckily, everything went well with the procedure. But I can imagine you get these procedures done. Medical malpractice. It's one of those things that happen everywhere. You got to give.
And it's really interesting because, like she said, the doctors don't know that.
So we're not going after the doctors. You're going after the manufacturer.
Right.
Because if you're going after the doctor, then you're giving the manufacturer an out. You're like telling Johnson & Johnson or Atrium or whatever.
Unless you have
there's this other theory that we have. You don't want to give them another theory.
Unless you have an umbilical hernia and for whatever reason they amputate your arm or your leg, then that would be medical malpractice.
That probably is.
Yes.
Like the doctor in The Simpsons.
Yes, exactly. Well, Sandy, thank you so much for coming in again. We look forward to this again next week. Really interesting topic, and we look forward to the topics next week and your legal advice. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. It's Sandy Van.
From Van Law Firm.
From Van Law Firm. I was told not to put in the in there. It's Van Law Firm. So I got to get that right.
702-500-HURT.
Sandy, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it. We'll take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So a quick reminder tomorrow, the guys from Human Nature, man, they're awesome. They're going to be coming in studio, performing for us, and they're also going to give away some tickets. So we got them, and looks like we're also going to be having Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports joining us as well. Correct, JD?
Yeah, it sounds. There's a chance that we have a guy named Mark Weinstein, who was part of the Fire Festival documentary. There was a pretty big deal that happened 6 months ago.
Okay, good. So we're
one thing I want to talk about. We just launched a new website, www.thevegastake.com. It's really comprehensive. It shows all of our shows, pictures, friends of the show, et cetera, et cetera. But we also have all our stuff on SoundCloud, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Podbean, Stitcher. I mean, so many different platforms. If you ever want to log online and listen to or watch any of the last shows.
Check it out. Absolutely. Another guest we are having on the show tomorrow is joining us on the line right now. He's kind of going to give us a little bit of a tease of what is to come tomorrow. It is John Brukagan, former CCSD teacher, and now, of course, with Infinity, the Math Institute. John, why don't you there are so many crazy things happening with the CCSD right now. You got a guy that's in charge of the Clark County School District buying bicycles, putting it on tax dollars. You've got 700 teacher vacancies. I mean, I would imagine we're going to be talking about all this tomorrow.
Hey, Brian, what's up, Sharp? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and there is just so much going on with our local education system that I don't even know if we could fit it all into one show. Number one, we got the financial situation. You know, I told you guys, I divulged last time I was on the show that we're spending $4.2 billion every single year at CCSD, yet we still are coming up short on money with their budgets. So we have all the details from what happened when the administrators were arguing with CCSD and how they found their solution to the teachers now fighting, and explaining exactly what the strike is about. Why are the teachers so mad? And I have a feeling that those of you who don't really understand it, when I explain it piece by piece, you will understand exactly why they're striking, and then you will let the listeners decide if they support the teachers or if they support CCSD. As you mentioned, that Peloton bike, in the midst of all these crises, we had our superintendent using the funds, the taxpayer funds.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous, John. You know,
it's crazy, and you know, and we're going to talk about there was an ethics complaint lodged against him as well as the board member who signed off on that. We're going to talk tomorrow about the legality behind that purchase, whether it was right legally and whether it was right ethically, as well as all the details behind why he made this purchase and the timing of it, the optics of it, and everything else. And I've been doing a lot of research lately, and I got the final solution to solve all of CCSD's problems, and I'm going to save that until tomorrow, so that way your listeners
sounds good.
decide for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you what, I like the tease. John Brukagan will be joining us at 10:30 tomorrow on the show. Do a segment with him, and of course, John, a former Clark County School District teacher, now with Infinity, the Math Institute. John, we appreciate you calling in, and can't wait for you to come in studio tomorrow and get down to business here.
Thank you so much for having me, and make sure your listeners know they can visit themathinstitute.com if they know anybody who needs some math help.
You got it. You got it, John. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow as well. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
Excited to see you, John.
Fellas. Have a good one.
All right, there you go. John Brukagan from the Math Institute. Boy, is he right. Boy, is there a lot to get to with him tomorrow. We got the superintendent of schools that's buying a bicycle on taxpayer funds. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, there's 700 at least, folks, of teacher vacancies being filled in, at least some of them, by substitute teachers. You know who's suffering when it comes to all this stuff? No, it's not the taxpayer. It's not the parents. You know who's really suffering here, JD? It's the students. The students are the ones that are suffering. You know, when it comes to this stuff, they don't have the proper teachers in the classroom. They're not getting the help that they need. And then we wonder why the Clark County School District is suffering and why it's one of the worst school systems in the country. So John Brukagan will be joining us tomorrow to talk about this. We'll also be joined in studio. A live performance by the guys from Human Nature. We'll also be giving tickets away. Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports will be joining us tomorrow. We have a jam-packed, loaded show tomorrow. Check out our Twitter page at The Vegas Take, YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook. It's all up there, folks. And, of course, my personal Twitter page, which I just opened, is I'm Brian Shapiro. We'll see you same time, same place. Take a 21-hour break. Catch you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Sean Hannity coming up next.